Now, there is a new report out about Scott Pruitt and his connections to certain lobbyists, which might be proving to be a bit problematic, considering how he is the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, I'm going to give you some of the details into some of what these lobbyists do and what their connection to Scott Pruitt actually is. Now, according to ABC News, lobbyist Stephen J. Hart, J. Stephen Hart, admitted that Scott Pruitt happened to be living in one of their very expensive, very nice DC condos, which is actually really, really close to work. So to understand why this is a problem, you have to understand that in Washington, D.C., space is at a premium. So if this lobbyist is giving more favorable terms to Scott Pruitt to rent out this wonderful DC apartment, condo, well, that could be problematic, because what would this lobbyist want in return? Let's get into the report. Now, the Harts were described in 2010 by newspaper roll call as a lobbyist power couple, and Hart told ABC News that Pruitt lived in the D.C. condo, which is owned through an LLC that links to an address owned by the lobbyist and his wife, Vicky Hart. Now, Vicky Hart happens to be a lobbyist specializing in healthcare. Fascinating. Now, Stephen Hart, chairman and CEO of Williams & Jensen, to give you a little background, previously served in the Reagan Justice Department and is a top Republican fundraiser, and his firm reported more than $16 million in federal lobbying income last year. Among his many clients, and this is where it starts to be problematic, well, number one of his clients is the NRA. Well, that's standard conservative Republican fare. And the EPA doesn't have anything to do with the NRA, with gun regulation. Okay, that's fair enough, right? However, one of his other clients is something called Cheniere Energy, Incorporated, which reported paying Hart's firm $80,000 a year. So you have a government official, right, living in a very plush DC condo, which is very well coveted because space is at a premium, very, very close to work. How fortunate, right? Happens to be owned by one of the power lobbyists in Washington, who happens to have clients in the energy sector. This might be a little bit of corruption. But wait, let me give you more information. Now, Hart's firm specifically lobbied on issues related to the export of liquefied natural gas, approval of LNG exports, and export facilities. The firm also lists on its website that it lobbies on other EPA policies like the Clean Air Act. So now we have the connection. This lobbyist firm, this power lobbyist, basically giving, and this all depends in the terms of course, the lease. If it's at market value, well, then we don't have corruption. We just have somebody saying, I'm going to help out a friend. We're going to rent it out at fair market value. And if somebody else wants it that gives me a better offer, then yes, I'll probably kick the guy out. Now, would that happen? I don't think so. Because I do believe that this is a case of corruption. But we would have to look, of course, at the rental agreement. We would have to see a copy of it in order to really kind of see, get that concrete proof that it is corruption. So, nonetheless, it seems really, really shady. Now, there's more shady stuff. This is great. Now, Cheniere Energy, as I mentioned, they're another client of this lobby firm. They owned the only active liquid natural gas export plant in the United States at that time. At the time, of course, the lease. Now, liquid natural gas exports was on the agenda for a discussion during a 2017 December trip to Morocco. Now, that is a trip that Pruitt had used taxpayer money on. On the trip, Pruitt pitched a potential benefit of liquefied natural gas imports on Morocco's economy. So here he is, again, linked to this lobbyist for natural gas going to a trip to Morocco, an official trip on taxpayer money, saying, hey, look how great natural gas is. Why doesn't your government sign some imports for this company's natural gas? No, there's no corruption here. What are you talking about? Of course, I'm sure none of this has anything to do with getting this condo in a prime DC area next to work. No, what they're looking at is they're saying this could be a potential gift. This is a possible ethics violation on the part of Scott Pruitt. Oh, no, Scott Pruitt being corrupt? No. Anybody in the Trump administration being corrupt and being bought off by lobbyists? No, of course not. Now, more on this Morocco trip. According to ABC News, the trip was Pruitt's most expensive. They learned that ABC News has learned that Pruitt, his head of security, and additional member of his staff, Samantha Dravis, all flew first class on, as I said, taxpayer money. Now, look, if they want to go and pay for their own first class, okay, hey, I don't have a problem with that. But if you're a public employee, well, then maybe you should not take first class. Be like Bernie. Bernie never flies first class. You see him in, like, economy and freaking coach. That's the way our politicians should fly. Not in first class. Now, both environmental groups and members of Congress, according to the report, pointed out that the jurisdiction over natural gas exports does not fall to the EPA. Oh, that's very interesting. So that adds another wrinkle in here. Oh, see, look, he's not trying to advocate for natural gas or anything to do with the EPA. So what is he doing? What is he there for? He's there as a, I guess, in a private capacity, using public money to try and pimp this company, who, again, the head of the company happens to control where he lives. Now, as I said before, the jurisdiction falls to the Department of Energy. Now, there is another lobbying client of Hart's that has something to do with the EPA. The railroad Norfolk Southern spent $160,000 last year on lobbying Congress on issues affecting coal usage, oil production, and transportation, including EPA regulation. I think it is fairly clear why he's doing what he's doing. This is definitely corruption. Look, you want to talk about the swamp, right? This is the swamp. Now, look, recently, and I talked about this, David Shulkin recently got fired because of his corruption. Oh my God, look at that. He took taxpayer flights. He spent personal taxpayer money from the VA on his wife to go to Europe. Oh my God, the terrible corruption. Let's get him out, get him out, get him out. When really, the real reason Shulkin was fired is not because of misuse of taxpayer money. No, it's because he stood in the way of privatization of the VA. Whereas Scott Pruitt and the EPA is like, no. What I want to do with the EPA is to basically use it to protect multinational corporations. I'm not going to protect the environment. No, I'm going to protect corporations against the environment or against any sort of environmental regulations. Pruitt, as I said before, he is knee-deep in ethics violations, ethics issues, spending personal taxpayer money, all that stuff on himself, and he is still there. It is because he is an ally to President Trump. He's not getting in Trump's way. He's doing exactly what President Trump put him there to do. Deregulate industry and to turn the EPA into a pro-corporate agency that's going to help all his corporate friends make even more money. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.